There are many obstacles in the face of men that actually present problems and cause problems to men, whilst females have actually got it way easier, especially in a country such as Australia. These obstacles are usually noticed only when men get married or when men get into a relationship with a female. Men are becoming switched on to these problems, and most are avoiding marriage. Some are avoiding relationships altogether. The risks involved in getting married are usually financial risks, but the risk to having a child for the father is not only financial, as a father can lose his children altogether. I shall address some of these issues in this video. However, each issue does have a lot more involved to it, but it is very important that the issues get addressed even at the simplest of levels, due to the fact that it creates an atmosphere of awareness. These issues will be addressed as we progress. What have women done to help the state of men, or even worsen the state of men's affairs? Do Australian laws that apply today help both men and women, or do these laws suit one gender over the other? Does society treat men and women equally, or does society favour women over men, or vice versa? We already know that the suicide rates in Australia are 78% male. Many people do not know that in Australia, just like most other Western nations, only females have shelters or refuge. Men do not have this offered to them in Australia. This is why you do not see homeless females on the street. You only see males. Domestic violence is only advertised as though it only occurs to women. However, Australian statistics clearly prove that domestic violence is fairly balanced out regarding percentages. It's pretty much a 50-50 problem. But why is there a social stigma against males that paints them all as violent and cruel, whilst females are painted as the sole victims? Why is it that whenever a homeless man asks me for $1, people around me are quick to jump and tell me not to give this man any money? I'm quickly informed that this male probably wastes all his money on alcohol, or probably gambles his money away. Why are people quick to come up with conjecture or speculation so as to not help a man? Why is it only males are put in this situation where they have to beg for money on the streets? Do females not drink alcohol? Do females not gamble? Of course they do, but you don't see them being homeless. Why should there be anybody at all living on the streets in the first place? What's going on? Why does nobody address men's issues? What I'm saying is, on the most basic level, why doesn't anybody talk about or address the most basic fundamental issues that men have been facing and are facing today? Why doesn't anybody address these issues? Why do people ignore this subject and prefer to talk about other topics that are nowhere near as important? And yes, I say nowhere near as important because men are literally dying here. I'm not only referring to government representatives, politicians, etc. I'm also talking about religious leaders, and I'm also talking about yourself, you. Silence is acceptance. When you know about a crime or a problem and just turn a blind eye and do nothing to rectify it, or at least work on a solution. Think about that for a moment. Would you do something to save a person's life? Would you help that person? I suppose the simplest way to put it is, do you have empathy? We have a problem in our own backyard that is so huge and monumental that if it hasn't already affected your life, it has affected somebody's that you know, and it will eventually affect you sooner or later. Where is equality, and what is equality? A simple way to define equality in this context of things can be, quote, what's good for you is good for me, unquote, or whatever it is that you are entitled to, I should be entitled to also. Australian government statistics have crunched numbers in very recent history and have realised that most parental abuse towards children comes from the mother of the child. Yet in the Family Court of Australia, fathers still get the short end of the stick. What about the children? Men are realizing how courts do favour females over males. The message is getting around and men are opting out of marriage because it most likely will result in divorce. The divorce rate is at least 50%. We are not smarter than the government think tanks, especially when it comes to extremely important topics such as this one. The family unit is supposed to be the glue that keeps society welded together, but is quickly fading away. The government uses its social engineering tools such as television, newspapers, and radio to keep projecting the ideal image of the female and male. This being ideal to the government and its interests, not to the subjects that this image is being projected to. If you have paid attention closely, well, you don't really have to pay that close attention. You will realize that this image is of a grandiose, unempathic, self-entitled, self-obsessed, and in some cases sadistic personality. An image that is on the same parallel to the pathological psychological disorder known as narcissistic personality disorder. Images, video bites, and music portraying that life only revolves around oneself, where it's great to be promiscuous, selfish, vain, to be dressed with pretty much no clothes, having no respect for others, including parents, or for oneself. Dog eats dog, and it's all about the money. The parasitical effects that this mind segmentation, otherwise known as brainwashing, has caused is nothing less than epidemic. It is that sick that we have females sleeping with multiple men so that they cause themselves to fall pregnant in order that they have a meal ticket, not caring one bit about the child that they are going to bring into this world or the damage that they will do to the male who may become a father, just caring about themselves. It has become a really cruel world indeed. There is evidence that the governments of the Western world are the primary source of this problem, and the problem will only continue to worsen. The clearest source of evidence is a point I mentioned earlier, that being knowledge of a so-called crime scene, which is, in this case, suicide, and the government turning its back on it. Opinion can also be drawn when one thinks about why nothing has been done to pursue male contraceptives. Australia is one of the leaders in the world in many fields of medicine and science, but the government does not give the man an option. Condoms are not good enough. They do break, and if pregnancy follows, can destroy a man's life because the male has no say, whereas the female can choose to either keep or get rid of the baby. For the sake of fairness and equality, I will go back to what's good for you is good for me. If contraceptives are good for females, then they should be good for males as well. Making contraceptives available only for females can be extremely dangerous due to the fact that a female can lie to a male and say that she always takes her pills, and because the male has put his trust in her, he is manipulated. He is then totally shocked to find out that she is pregnant with his child, only to then be told that it takes two to tango, or to man up, or you should have known about the risks, or but I thought you loved me. The male has now had his life turned upside down. Contraceptives are a necessity, an absolute must for males. There actually are many pointers that show backwardness, unless by deliberation on behalf of the Australian government. One being an example that would be much simpler to rectify. This example being what's commonly known as AVOs or ADVOs. I'm referring to apprehended domestic violence orders, and in particular, the shocking, crude process of apprehended domestic violence orders. Today, an ADVO is nothing but a mere utility that is utilized to keep the male away or else. There does not even need to be actual evidence that a partner or a person that you have had a domestic relationship with is a threat. You can just simply go into any police station and make a statement and have an ADVO filled out, and you will be able to keep that person that you claim to be afraid of away from you. If that person approaches you, then that person can be imprisoned for a lengthy period of time. There are too many problems that come with ADVOs. One of them is the fact that too many mothers have the father's children written on the ADVO as being victims, so that the father is forced away from his own children. His children are too young to realize what's going on. They may be 2 or 3-year-olds and cannot articulate themselves and give the police their side of the story. That is, if there really is an actual story. ADVOs are very commonly used as gain against men. Why isn't more scrutiny given to the ADVO system? Why isn't there a more transparent and honest approach given to the enforcement of an ADVO? Now, you will be told that an ADVO is not a charge and won't go on your criminal history. However, if you breach that order, there will be serious ramifications indeed. Ramifications that are life-altering and shattering, including jail time. I'll give you an example. A subject has walked into a police station to make a statement and put out an ADVO against their partner. They have now spoken to the police, and police have taken a statement from this subject known as the victim. Why don't police call the accused effective immediately and ask to interview the accused so that they can hear the accused's version of events? The whole problem may be resolved in less than 2 hours, possibly even minutes. Maybe the accused has a vital piece of information such as a video recording, audio recording, or even witnesses as to quickly, effectively, and efficiently prove that the so-called victim is lying. Because no thorough yet basic investigation has been done before slamming an ADVO against the so-called accused, the ADVO is initiated. This now keeps the father away from the children by force. It is not 1975, it is beyond 2000. Mobile phones exist. Recording devices exist. Many problems can be solved in minutes, usually just by a quick phone call. Like I said earlier, we are not smarter than the government, and this is negligence on their part. It is my opinion that this is how the government wants it to be, because the court process system is a big money maker, and solving problems quickly and rationally are not profitable. Statistics drawn out by the government show that over 80% of divorces are initiated by women. One must beg to ask the question, what happened? Obviously, there are two sides to any story, but only one side is given importance. Now, if 80% of divorces are initiated by women, wouldn't a man beg to ask, is it worth getting married? Maybe the risk is too high. It is a strong opinion of mine that the Australian government is very desperate to increase its population due to the fact that they were offering families $5,000 for each child that family gave birth to. However, it should be noted, due to the nature of this subject, that the mother received this transaction of money. The Australian government has now dropped its $5,000 grant to only $1,000. This should be a clear indication that the government is now content with its current population figure. Many immature adults went out there and had children just for the sake of this money, which they deemed to be a lot of money. Many stories have arisen out of Western Sydney, 3 that I know of personally, that have become events where the mother of the child becomes abusive towards the father of the child. The father or the mother leaves, mother keeps the child, mother gets paid by the government to look after her child, and the father gets screwed. This father is only a teenager. Has the dust even settled in his life to even realize what has happened to him? Can this young father ever trust another female? Is he not going to tell others about his story? Has this male realized that he was never the father of that child, but rather just a sperm donor? The female was manipulated by the so-called alpha male, who in this case is the government, into having a baby in which the end result, the actual biological father of that child, got screwed. And now you have a child who, statistically speaking, is going to be more prone to becoming an abuser as compared to a child that is raised by two parents that actually live together. Why would females need a male partner when they have the ultimate alpha partner, the Australian government? Throughout our lives, we as males have been taught to hate ourselves or to think lesser of ourselves. And I mean that in the sense that boys don't cry, or even when we're told things like, just let her play with your toys, she's a girl. I have witnessed firsthand mothers abuse their own male toddler children or child by allowing the other older female child to play with the younger male child's toys only because of the fact that that child was a girl. This teaching to deny us the most basic right, which is a simple right of equality as children, is ingrained into us as children. This is when sensitivity is being stripped away from the male and is causing him to question and think logically, veering him off into the world of rationality and logic, whilst the female is being implanted with self-entitlements that end up labeling her as being emotional. Simply put, men are opting out of relationships. There are simply too many reasons to bring up, but the evidence is there that males do not receive equal treatment, not only by society, but also by government. Why would a male want to risk not only his life, his money, but his possible children? Opting out seems like a very good choice indeed.